Hi, you guys. Welcome back. My name is Carrie Penny. I am the Happy Crafty Homemaker, and today I'm very excited to be talking to you guys about Premier's new yarn Spice Shop. So I am about 6 weeks behind on doing my review, thoughts, opinions, feelings, whatever you want to call this, on this yarn. It was released about 7 weeks ago, and after I placed my order, I decided to do a 30-day challenge to use as much yarn from my stash as I could. So this got tabled in that 30-day challenge. So here we are, weeks later, after I'd ordered it, after I planned on doing this review and everything, finally getting down to it. So before we get started on talking about like swatching and everything else, I do want to let you know I am planning on frogging my crochet swatch, not because of the yarn, but because of the project itself. I just don't like how it came together. So out of the gate, I want to pop up a picture here of the colorways that this yarn comes in. As you can imagine, the names are all kind of spice themed. I personally purchased the saffron and the lavender colorways. And can I just say, this is one of those touches I just love with Premier personally. But one of the new things they're doing is they're showing at least a knitted swatch of the yarns on the ball band. So if you see these in the store and you're not shopping online where you can look at the swatches online, you kind of have an idea of how these are going to work out. While yes, it's only a knitted swatch, most crocheters can eventually kind of over time get a concept of what these are going to look like. But don't worry, I do have a crocheted swatch. This is a super bulky size 6 yarn. The recommended hook and needle size is a US 10.5 millimeter to knit, a US L 8 millimeter to crochet. This is a 80% acrylic, 20% wool yarn, 109 yards, 100 meters, 3.5 ounces, 100 grams. This is hand wash, lay flat to dry. So I think that's all the stats we had for the yarn here. If you just want the down and dirty, what is your star rating? I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. One thing really quick to note about me and my relationship with Premier, while I do have an affiliate link in the description box down below, if you decide to go purchase, I would appreciate you ordering through my affiliate link, but you don't have to. No pressure there. I would just, appreciate it. But Premier many moons ago, if you look through my yarn review series as I'm talking about Premier yarns, you will have heard this before. If you've been with me for a while, you will have heard this before from me. Premier really upped the game and forced other big box yarn stores or yarn manufacturers to up their game as well. They released what at the time was the Deborah Norville Everyday Collection, which is their anti-pilling line. That's how they started the Everyday Anti-Pilling line. And as soon as I touched that the first time and worked with it the first time, I was head over heels in love. Premier was producing one of the first true high quality acrylic yarns on the market. And at the time I was able to purchase it at Joann's. Then it moved to our Hobby Lobby. Then I know it was on Mary Maxim and Hirschner's fairly quickly after that, but I was able to get it in person and really experience it in person. And I think I have finally used the last of those original colorways, but I have been using Premier yarns religiously since then. I've talked about, the quality and everything else. They really do make high quality, affordable yarns, and they run amazing sales. Speaking of which, right now they are running their pre-Black Friday sales. So if you click that affiliate link down below in the description box, it'll take you to the Premier website and you can shop all of the sales. They have some amazing deals going on and they update every single day. So definitely go check that out as well and look at their other yarns, but they make fantastic high quality yarn as a general rule. I've been very, very happy purchasing and I feel very secure generally purchasing from Premier, knowing their quality and excellence in the yarnscape, the greater yarnscape here. So the reason why we have so many amazing, in my opinion, the reason why we now have so many high quality, amazing, affordable yarns on the market is Premier really saying, we want quality and affordable yarns and making those and giving those to us. So when I purchased this, while a size 6 yarn is not my favorite size to work with, I find wielding larger hooks and needles to be very difficult on my hands and my wrist. I felt very secure that I was going to be in love with the yarn. I was not disappointed. One of my favorite styles of yarn is a roving style. There are problems with yarn that comes in a roving style. Just, you are, for the best longevity of a finished object, you are limited to finished items that are not going to be in high rub zones. So I would not recommend, necessarily a sweater where you're going to have massive pilling that will occur in the underarm area or on the tushy area. If you make a sweater, those tend to be my two high pill zones. But this is a wool acrylic blend. So you're going to have some pilling, but it's not going to be felting pilling. So that's, kind of a pro con there. I personally prefer a mixed fiber yarn just because you get the best of both worlds of more than one fiber. Acrylic is highly durable, but wool is very breathable. If you a lot of times wear a 100% acrylic sweater, especially living in the Southeast where it's hot and humid, even when it's cold and humid, you can get a little swampy in your clothes, and the wool helps pull humidity away from your body, but still capturing heat up against your body. So I do prefer fiber blends that mix to kind of give you a little bit of everything there. For this yarn specifically, because it is a roving, I would, definitely steer more towards hats, cowls, scarves, shawls, a couple of odd projects that I think this yarn would be uniquely suited for. Hand warmers, if you're going to be doing things like typing or even arm and wrist warmers. If you're just doing arm and wrist warmers, they're not going to be in a high traffic zone. Hand warmers, if you're going to be wearing them for things like driving, typing, running to the grocery store kind of things, they're not going to get, heavily rubbed. So you're not going to have the pilling issue as quickly. You probably still will end up having pilling, but it won't be quite as quick. I'm sorry, I've done a lot of talking today and my throat's like, no, stop, no more. Stop torturing me. So the other thing that I think this would be really excellent at, and I kind of want to do this for myself, is leg warmers. I think this yarn would make some of the most amazing leg warmers. I would stick to a basic rib pattern and I would probably knit mine. But I think this would make some of the squishiest, cutest leg warmers ever made. So that's kind of like where my brain would go, having now worked this yarn and worked with it. Hat, scarf, shawls, hand warmers, arm warmers, and leg warmers would be like my top. This is what I'm going to make with these yarns. Let's talk about my swatches. So for my crochet swatch, I did not use the 8mm hook. I used a K. Or was it? Yeah, they recommended an 8. I used a 9mm hook. So this is the project. I did not weave in the ends because I am going to frog this project. I think this final project falls really flat compared to what it could be. So I am going to rework this into a different pattern. So please excuse the non-professionalism. I did not block this I just kind of, stretched it out a little bit, let it kind of chill, and popped it with a little loose steam. I did not heavily steam block this or anything else. I just wanted you to see how the colors lay out in a crochet project. So we did not get any stacking, flashing, or pulling with this. The yellow in this yarn, this is the saffron colorway. It is a short shot of color between the pinks and the blues and the purples in here. So it did, it kind of looks like it stacked, but it really truthfully did not stack in this crochet project. That will also depend on your gauge overall as well. One of the things I have to say, for a yarn like this to be bulky, a little fuzzy, and a roving style yarn, you have actual visual stitch definition here. When you've got stacked stitches together, there are some fuzzies. It is a little floofy, but you still have stitch definition there. But when I was crocheting it, the visibility of where you put the hook for each stitch, it was absolutely fantastic. I was genuinely very impressed with how visible this was. I used medium light in my living room, so just medium ambient light. I did not need a neck light or anything else to see my stitches. I was able to see where those holes were to insert my hook with perfect precision on every single stitch. So for something like this, where you do have dark colors, texture, I was very impressed with the visibility of these stitches. So crocheting it, the experience, it's a 5 out of 5 experience, other than once again, I don't like heavy yarns working with them. So like I said, it takes it down to a 4, 4.5 for me personally, as far as the quality of the yarn and the experience. If you love working with bulky, super bulky yarn, this is definitely a really nice yarn to work with. Great loft and texture, even in the crochet stitches. You can see we have a lot of squishiness. We don't lose any of that squishiness in the loftiness of the yarn when we're crocheting with it. It stays nice and soft and squishy. I would normally not say this about a bulky, super bulky yarn, just because I think it gets too stacked up. But if you wanted to do something that is a little more dimensional crocheted, like a linen stitch or Tunisian stitches, I do believe this yarn would perform very nicely, especially if you choose an appropriate size hook to give you the space you're wanting in between the stitches. I would definitely go up to probably a 9mm at minimum with a Tunisian hook, just to keep some loft, so you don't end up with like an unmovable fabric. You want something that's thick but still squishy and movable. You wouldn't necessarily lose the drape of a finished project though, doing Tunisian or say like a linen stitch with this yarn. This would stack very nicely in a linen stitch shawl. Just saying. Just putting it out there into the ethos, this would make a really nice linen stitch shawl. Very, very, very impressed with that. I love the visual texture that we got in the crocheted finished object. I do like the way the colors exist in this. I just don't think this pattern gave me what I wanted in a finished object. If you want more information on the patterns for these, I would go check out my show and tell 246, where I talk more about the patterns. This is just strictly talking about the yarn. So for my knitted swatch, I did not finish this just so I could expedite getting a review video up. I have used 4 skeins of this yarn, 2 in each colorway. So I did want to let you just go ahead and get this up, because if you guys are making your Christmas list, I wanted my opinion out there too, so you could hear it. So first off, you can see what our stitch definition looks like in just a plain rib stitch here. We do have a nice clean stitch definition. This is a large needle though. This is a US 15 needle, so this is larger than the recommended needle here. You can also here see what it looks like purled. The in-between texture here is primarily purl stitches. So you can see how the texture of the yarn stacks with the texture of the stitch here. And we have a drop stitch or a slip stitch pattern here in the center that makes up this primary section here. So you can see where that slip stitch, that extended slip stitch, definitely gives you tremendous impact there, and it stays very visible through the texture of the yarn as well as the texture of the stitch pattern. So you can see both the yarn texture and the intended texture pattern of the knit stitch here. And here we have the decrease where you can see once again how that came together. And I was able to, as the yarn has so much, even though it's a super bulky yarn, it has a lot of air in it. We were able to get a very nice closed, tight closure, cinching up those last few stitches so we don't have a gappy hole at the top of this hat. So once again, incredibly pleasant to work with, glides on the needles. Now I did use a Clover Amore hook to crochet with. I am using my ChowGoo needles to knit with. So you can see how big that needle is there. This is a 10 millimeter needle, so it's a big needle. But once again, you can see how the color just creates texture, but we're not getting flashing, we're not getting pooling, we're not getting stacking here. We have a nice even distribution of the colors even across the cowl. So through multiple different stitches now, we haven't had any of the traditional problems with variegated or striping yarn. This does have a semi-abrupt color change, but as the texture of the yarn kind of hides a lot of that. Trying to find where the color change is here. Oh, let's go down to the next one so we can really show it off. Well, this, of course, I say that between the purple and the gold, we have a nice blended color change there. But when I was looking at the, yeah, here we go, to the white and purple speck, it literally goes yellow, white, and purple speckle. So it's a very abrupt color change there. So I really like that unevenness to it. It creates visual texture without having to build in texture stitches. That's why I really wanted something that showed kind of a basic stitch pattern with the ribbing, as well as a highly textured stitch. And that's also why I chose that shawl for the crochet sample, is I wanted to show you how those stitches looked in groups together of the double crochets, as well as, you know, spaced out with the chains and the laciness. It's just, it didn't quite work out to best benefit there. But I did want you to be able to see clearly, you know, once again, you can still get visual texture from your stitch pattern, but you also have built-in visual texture just from the yarn itself. So this would work in dimensional texture stitches like linen stitch, Tunisian stitches, this slip stitch pattern, rib stitch, seed stitch. You can still see those individual stitch patterns in there, but you don't necessarily need that because you do also have visual texture just created by the yarn, by virtue of the type of yarn it is, the barber poling, and the final texture of the yarn. But you can very clearly see when you look at the strand of the yarn how much air is in there. I mean, it is a very, very open, airy yarn. So you could almost, if you really wanted to create a denser texture, you could come down, you know, a hook size or a needle size as well to really create a more closed texture. You do have enough loft in the yarn to be able to play with that hook and needle size a little bit more and adjust for what you want that texture to be. This isn't going to be something that, you know, if your pattern calls for a different hook or needle size than recommended, you're immediately going to not get the look you're looking for. So I would say you could treat this as a bulky yarn. You couldn't take it all the way down to like a size 8 needle, but you could definitely treat this like a medium bulky all the way up to a super bulky yarn and get different textures playing with the loft of the yarn. So yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here for different techniques, different textures to be played with, and different garments to be made at the end of the day. If you did really want to make a sweater out of this, I would definitely recommend going down to I don't know how this would do on a 9. You could probably still get a nice knitted texture on a 9 needle, but at least a 10. I would drop back at least 1 full needle size, if not 2, and create a slightly tighter knit stitch. Just as people talk about when you're knitting socks, you want to use the smallest needle to get the size you want. Just because that is a place where you're going to get a lot of wear and tear on socks. You want a tighter texture knit fabric so it doesn't wear out as quickly. I would definitely go with a tighter texture if you really wanted to make a sweater out of this yarn, because it would be beautiful and it would be lovely to wear. It's just things like the pilling and stuff are going to be higher and occur quicker because of the nature of a roving style yarn. It's not tightly plied. So when you rub up against it, you create more pills on the final fiber. So all in all, I'm giving this, like I said, a 4.5 stars out of 5. I really, really love the yarn. I love the visual texture of this. I love the colors that they chose to do this in. This would be really fun if you bought like all the colorways and just kind of like alternated them and did, like some mosaic work or something. This would be fun for some color work kind of projects as well. You could have a lot of different fun with this yarn. It offers a wide variety of different things that you could do with it and get really neat effects out of it. It's just personally, I don't enjoy working with heavier yarns because they're harder on my hands. I love the fabric. They're just harder on my hands to create. So anyway, there is an affiliate link in the description box down below. There's one that is under my affiliate link code for Premier, and I will try to also have a straight link just to the Spice Shop yarn. If you have any questions that I did not cover in this video, please let me know. Comment down below. I will be more than happy to come back and answer any questions that you have. If you've used this yarn, leave a comment down below and let everybody else know what your opinion is. My community is very, very good at reading the comment sections and sharing their expertise. So if you are new here to my channel and are not familiar with me, my reviews, or my community that I've built here, they are awesome people. And they also have other opinions down below. I am a firm believer of the more opinions you have on something, the more you know what to expect. So if you disagree with me, please feel free to comment down below with why. Why do you disagree? I just ask that you were respectful of me and my community here on YouTube. But I love you guys. I look forward to seeing you real soon. Please take care of yourselves. I hope you are making something absolutely spectacular today. Bye, you guys.